the top data protection trends in 2024. We will talk about the impact of AI, recent changes in ransomware tactics, cloud migrations, and other developments. We also have some strategies and tips prepared to help you adapt to these trends. After that, we will share NAKIVO's top predictions for data protection this year. And finally, we will have an open Q&A session to discuss all of these topics and answer any questions you may have. By the way, we are giving out a $50 Amazon gift card to one of you at the end of the webinar. So the winner will be randomly selected after the Q&A. So make sure to stay until the end for your chance to win. Use the chat box to ask questions at any point during the presentation. You can submit questions about today's topics or anything related to data protection. We'll make sure to address them during the Q&A session. Let's start off with the warm-up question. What was the biggest data protection challenge your organization faced in 2023? Please leave your answers in the chat box window. We will come back to discuss them later. NAKIVO is a US corporation dedicated to delivering the ultimate backup, ransomware protection, and disaster recovery solution for virtual, for physical, cloud, software as a service, and mixed environments. That solution is NAKIVO Backup and Replication. Leading brands trust NAKIVO with protecting their data, and our solution is among the top rated on Gartner Peer Insights platform. And average score of 4.8 out of 5 gained us recognition in this year's Voice of the Customer report from Gartner. And we are also proud of the mentions in Gartner's 2022 Magic Quadrant report. NAKIVO has a long track record of positive reviews on other platforms like Capterra, G2, Spiceworks, and GetUp. NAKIVO is a fast, affordable, and top-rated data protection solution that allows you to protect VMs, physical machines, apps, databases, and network shares from one centralized web interface. The solution is highly flexible and scalable with multiple secure deployment options available. Delivering for up to 2x higher performance and up to 50% lower price, the solution enables SMBs and enterprises to achieve ambitious data protection goals without exceeding tight budgets. Let's begin by analyzing the most important data protection trends for this year. When it comes to the fight for data, artificial intelligence and machine learning tools are being used by both camps, cyber criminals and data protection specialists. Let's start with the red corner. AI and ML algorithms can be used to exploit vulnerabilities more efficiently. For example, a hacker can quickly find weak passwords and launch brute force attacks using AI. It's even possible now to bypass biometric security by cloning voice prints and fingerprints. AI also enables cyber criminals to modify behavior of their malware and hide it from conventional antivirus software. This makes it easier to infiltrate networks undetected. What's more, hackers can simplify the collection and analysis of large amounts of data from social media, leaked databases, and other sources. This uncovers insights and patterns that help them launch successful attacks. On that note, AI made it possible to launch coordinated attacks on a large scale, targeting multiple victims at once. Perhaps the most recent example of AI abuse has been through large language models, or LLMs, like ChatGPT. Since ChatGPT came out, threat actors were quick to create underground analogs of it, like WormGPT and FraudGPT. These versions lack the safety filters that prevent them from fulfilling malicious requests, so they're effective for writing elusive malware and generating content that makes phishing emails look clean and convincing. On the other hand, AI and ML are enable more intelligent and effective data protection. One of the most common use cases is predictive analysis. AI and ML tools can be used to identify and address potential risks before they become a problem. Examples include detecting anomalies like unusual CPU activity and predicting resource shortages. Another important use case is automation. Different data type requires different levels of protection depending on criticality. With AI, you can automate data classification and distribution across storage locations to maximize resilience. Speaking of storage, AI and ML can also optimize data deduplication and compression. These techniques eliminate redundant data with high precision, reducing transfer volumes, increasing speed, and decreasing the load on network and storage. Furthermore, they enable intelligent disaster recovery. For example, special algorithms make it possible to prioritize data sets and to fail over to secondary sites and address potential disruptions early to minimize the downtime. The 3-2-1 rule has been the golden standard for backup strategies for 2 decades, but times have changed and strategies need to adapt. The 3-2-1 rule says that to avoid data loss, you need at least 3 copies of your data. 2 of those copies must be stored on 2 different media, for example, disk and tape, with 1 copy kept at a remote location. The 3-2-1-1 iteration is the same strategy with one additional measure, which is that one of the backup copies must be kept offline. This is useful against ransomware attacks since ransomware cannot infect offline data. But even with that, failed recoveries can be a problem due to a corruption, for example, which brings us to the 3-2-1-1-0 strategy. The added zero signifies taking measures to ensure zero disruptions during recovery. This includes regular backup testing, which many organizations take for granted. At NAKIVO, we also and always recommend not just testing your backups, but also scanning them before malware. uh, you see some you see some types of malware can infect your original data and remain dormant for a certain period until activated. Failing to address this could take out your entire backup infrastructure. There's also 4-3-2 backup strategy, which is usually used by managed service providers. Instead of three, this strategy includes 4 copies of the data. These copies are distributed across 3 different locations, such that 2 of the 3 locations are away from the organization's premises. Typically, 1 copy is on premises with the MSP, and another is kept as a remote location, usually in the cloud. We recommend that you adopt the well-rounded 3-2-1-1-0 strategy going forward, as it will help you minimize data loss and downtime. If you're a backup as a service provider with a large customer base and diverse environments, it's easy to be overwhelmed. You have to juggle management complexities, costs, and SLA guidelines, which has been a real challenge. In response, many MSPs are seeking more centralization, automation, and cost reduction. Firstly, by managing all of their clients' mixed environments in a single centralized place. MSPs can achieve higher simplicity and visibility. Second, by automating routine jobs and monitoring activities, they can free up invest time and resources into more important tasks. And third, MSPs should more put focus on partnering with vendors that offer a balance of affordable pricing, flexible licensing, and easy scaling, and rich, reliable functionality. To manage storage costs, backup as a service providers must also use effective strategies for data tiering across on premises and public cloud storage. For data protection, the public cloud presents a secure, flexible, and scalable offsite storage option. Companies often use multiple public cloud platforms at once to capitalize on the advantages of each vendor and meet their unique needs. But although the multi cloud approach is popular, it has its challenges that need attention in 2024. First, the cost of storing large amounts of data in the cloud is becoming unbearable for many organizations, with the typical enterprise storing a total of 10 petabytes of data on average. We recommend taking steps to reduce cloud storage consumption. One of the best ways to do this is by using incremental backups coupled with data size reduction techniques. The second challenge concerns the security of your backup data in the cloud. Threat actors have spared no one, not even cloud platforms. To protect your data from unauthorized modification, it's important to follow best practices for identify and access management. We also recommend applying immutability to your backups to prevent any tampering. Thirdly, compliance and retention requirements might be challenging to fulfill in the cloud. Complying with data protection regulations like GDPR protects your organization from legal complications and builds trust with customers and partners. At the same time, it helps you maintain a strong data protection posture. We can't talk about the cloud without talking about cloud repatriation. If you're storing data in the public cloud, you might be one of the many organizations that are having second thoughts about it. Whether it's to bring down soaring costs or to take back control of their data, or simply realizing that their own infrastructure is faster, the reasons to migrate back to on-premises infrastructure are there. You might be surprised to find out that up to 80% of the companies are migrating at least some of their data back to on-premises infrastructure each year, according to recent data from IDC. With this trend going strong in parallel to the cloud migration trend, the hybrid cloud model has become the modern standard for IT operations. In other words, using one or more public clouds while maintaining on premises infrastructure may provide the perfect balance between cost, data control, compliance, and security. Real time monitoring is gaining ground in the fields of data protection and cybersecurity. Monitoring key metrics like CPU usage, RAM usage, storage capacity, and network bandwidth in real time provides valuable insights that have various use. In terms of security, such insights can alert IT teams about unusual spikes or drops in monitoring metrics. For example, a sudden unexplained rise in CPU usage is one of the indicators of an ongoing ransomware attack. Real-time monitoring also helps in identifying usage patterns, which allows you to distribute workflows for efficiency and eliminate bottlenecks. Strategic planning is another important benefit, as IT decisions that are not backed by data are bound to fail. These insights you gain from real-time monitoring give you a better understanding of your infrastructure over time. It allows you, for example, to anticipate future resource needs and optimize IT spending. Various industries are realizing the importance of real-time analytics, which is why the global market size of monitoring tools is growing at a considerable rate and expected to reach $92.5 billion by 2030 from 13.4 billion in 2019. On a side note, businesses are integrating real-time analytics with business operations in what is known as continuous intelligence. It's not a secret that ransomware attacks have been on the rise for years, but 2023 was particularly alarming. The first sign came in January 2023 when 165 attacks were recorded, according to data from NCC Group. That was the highest volume of attacks for January over the previous 3 years. Every month after that saw significant activity, with the highest being in September. 2023 was predicted to be the first year to have more than 4,000 ransomware attacks and proved correct. The expected record was crushed in November with 4,276 total attacks already recorded by then. Today, there is no sign that the ransomware machine will slow down. Attacks are not just increasing in numbers, but their tactics are also getting more sophisticated. Example, a few months ago, a new extremely dangerous ransomware trend called dual ransomware attacks was observed for the first time. In these attacks, the same victim is targeted within a short time span, often within 48 hours, using two distinct ransomware strains. Dual attacks result in a combination of encryption, exfiltration, and financial loss from ransomware payments. In other words, they can have crippling effects. Previously, ransomware groups typically required a minimum of 10 days to execute, but now the vast majority of incidents targeting the same victim take place within 48-hour time frame. This is just one example of how ransomware is evolving. Add that to AI abuse, and there's no telling how powerful future attacks will become. And that concludes the trends section. Let's have a quick poll before we move on. We'd like to know why you decided to attend our webinar. There should be a pop-up with the answers on your screen. Just click the one that describes it best. So the first answer is getting insights for developing a data protection strategy for 2024. The second is keeping up with the latest technological developments. Third one is looking for ways to keep our data protection relevant. And the last one is I enjoy attending NAKIVO webinars. Please choose your answers. And the winner here is keeping up with the latest technological developments. Great. Let's move on with the webinar. Next, we will reveal our top predictions for data protection and cybersecurity for this year. Data shows that generative AI tools like ChatGPT have already been integrated into the workplace, with the research from Korn Ferry showing that 46% of professionals are using ChatGPT to finish their tasks. But as usual, as useful as AI can be, it can pose a serious threat to compliance, particularly with data protection regulations. At this early stage of AI use, organizations are too comfortable feeding sensitive information to such tools. Many seem to be oblivious to the fact that AI companies are valuable targets for cyber criminals. These companies could be hit at any moment, compromising the confidential data of countless organizations around the world. It's also worth mentioning that there is a rising wave of copycat AI tools of unknown origin. The risk of sharing sensitive information with these tools is even higher, as they could have been created with malicious intent. Based on these observations, we expect to see new and more stringent data protection regulations targeting the use of generative AI tools. We've already seen a glimpse of that in the European Union's proposed AI Act. In fact, content generated by LLMs may be subject to e-discovery requests and legal hold. As such, organizations must not only ensure compliance with existing regulations, but it's also crucial now to take proactive measures to prevent future violations. This can be done by enforcing internal rules on AI usage and data sharing. It's also a good idea to begin looking into the management and the retention of content generated by AI tools. Now, I would like to pass the word to my colleague Thomas. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Orest. I'm going to take it from here. Right, so validation of digital interaction allows us to close one of the biggest security issues of traditional data protection. The issue in question stems from an outdated assumption that internal networks are safe by default. And it's made worse by the rise in the remote work and bring your own device policies. In zero trust architecture, every application user is untrusted until authenticated and authorized. In addition to identity and access management, key practices of zero trust security models include endpoint protection behind proxy based architecture, micro segmentation within networks, and comprehensive traffic monitoring. It also involves data encryption, two factor authentication, and comprehensive role based access control. As a result, threats prevention is comprehensive, continuous, and adaptive to respond well to changing situation. Because of the model's proven effectiveness in zero trust trends is already going strong, and we expect it to continue growing in 2024. A word of caution. Though this doesn't mean we should expect fewer data loss incidents in 2024, in fact, it is reasonable to expect that the industry scale adoption of zero trust architecture will lead to more security gaps in the short term. Like with any new technology, early adopters are venturing into uncharted territory. So, as we watch this big shift in data protection happen, it's almost inevitable to encounter failed mitigations along the way. To sum up, in 2024, zero trust is on the rise, but it still has a rocky climb ahead of it. And we already talked about how a negative AI has the capacity to create highly convincing synthetic content and how this raises concerns about privacy and unauthorized data manipulations. In response to the growing risk associated with generative AI, we predict that forward thinking organizations will create and implement more robust internal security policies. It might be necessary to limit employees' access to narrative AI. We might also see an increased demand of machine learning algorithms for data classification as a preventive step against company secrets being shared with AI tools. Such policies will play a key role in regulating the usage of AI within the organization and controlling the sharing of sensitive data. Going forward, cybercriminals will invest more time and resources into AI tools to launch highly personalized phishing and deepfake attacks. As a result, it will be more challenging to identify attacks by traditional signs such as spelling and grammar errors typically observed in phishing emails. This is because AI can mimic natural language as well as replicate communication styles specific to an organization or an individual within it, like a high ranking executive. Such social engineering tactics will be more effective at bypassing traditional security systems. In 2024, we expect to see a growth in AI tools that are offered as a service to attackers, similar to how the ransomware as a service model has been helping hackers launch powerful attacks. We're also anticipating an increase in powerful as a countermeasure, we recommend investing in AI-based cybersecurity tools to protect your organization and data against these threats. This explosion in cyber threats and data loss risks has already reached a point beyond what traditional cybersecurity training programs can fully prepare you for. And considering how important it is to have sufficient awareness about IT threats in any organization, staff training frameworks must adapt quickly. In the year ahead, we expect organizations to put more emphasis on adequate cybersecurity training that takes into account current and potential threats, such as AI-driven cyber attacks and newly discovered ransomware tactics. And because the IT landscape is changing at such a rapid pace, we recommend regularly updating staff educational material to include new risks as they emerge. This ensures that all employees are fully aware and can react appropriately to a potential threat. And the final prediction we have for this year concerns real-time data protection, not to be confused with real-time analytics. The consequences of data loss can be devastating to the extent that 70% of small businesses fail within a year after a major disruption. And for some critical workloads that require high availability, regular backups may not be enough to fully recover. This is where real-time data protection comes in. This continuous protection approach works by updating the backup data even time the source data is changed. It makes it possible to restore workloads to the point in time just before the disruption with almost zero data loss. In response to expanding threat landscape, we expect to see increased demand for real-time data protection technology in 2024. A piece of advice though, real-time data protection can be heavy on resources, so make sure that you reserve for only the most critical of your workloads, while mainstream backups methods can be used for less sensitive data. And that wraps up our prediction on data protection for this year. Let's have one more quick poll just as before. Click on your answer in the pop-up. Which aspect of data protection do you expect to be the most challenging to deal with in 2024? Compliance in presence of AI, security of corporate networks, evolving ransomware and cyber threats, cost-effective data storage, fast recovery from incidents. Already, evolving ransomware and cyber threats. Perfect. Thank you for your answer. Let's move on. Right, and before we get to our predictions, I'm going to share some of the ways NAKIVO can help you overcome some of these challenges and keep your data protected at all times. NAKIVO backup and replication can help create and manage multiple backup copies efficiently. You can send primary backups to local storage safes or NFS shares offsite to a NAS, for instance, or to the cloud. The solution allows you to configure the frequency and retention setting for each backup job as needed. You can then send additional backup copies to the cloud or tape for long-term storage retention. This process can be fully automated using the built-in job chaining feature to save time. And the solution supports multiple public cloud storage targets, giving you the flexibility to choose the most suitable option for your organization. You can set backups directly to Amazon S3, Wasabi, Azure Blob Storage, and Backblaze B2. If you prefer a different cloud storage target, you can also deploy a backup repository in any S3 compatible object storage platform that employs the AWS S3 API. This option allows you to store backup data in the cloud more affordably than, say, Amazon S3. It also facilitates hybrid setups with compatible on-site and off-site storage. NAKIVO Backup and Replication offers a centralized multi-tenant mode designed to help MSPs simplify client environment management. Multiple local tenants can share the same network infrastructure and compute the storage resources, but they remain completely isolated and secure. As the master tenant, you can certainly manage the data protection activities of all tenants with complete visibility and control over access permissions and allocated resources. Even clients with standalone deployments of the solution can be seamlessly integrated into the same centralized interface. Everything is nearly packed inside the MSP console. So if you're looking for a centralized, automated, and cost-effective solution for managed data protection offers, we can help you. NAKIVO also provides multi-layered approach to ransomware protection. You can create immutable backups in local storage and the cloud platforms mentioned earlier, including those compatible with the AWS S3 API. Immutability can be active for as long as you need, and once it's set in, no user or third party can overwrite, modify, or encrypt the backup data until the specified period expires. The NAKIVO Backup and Replication also supports detachable backup targets that can be taken offline to boost ransomware resilience, like tape, NAS, and disk media. Furthermore, you can replicate critical systems to be recovered as soon as possible after ransomware attack. What's more, the backup malware scan feature makes it possible to counter dormant malware threats by scanning backups before recovering them. IT monitoring from VMware vSphere is an integrated monitoring functionality that tracks various virtual infrastructure resources such as CPU, memory, and disk usage of host VMs and data stores. You can analyze trends, investigate issues, and protect future needs to ensure uninterrupted performance. This monitoring integration is highly scalable and can be used as a separate dashboard within the NAKIVO Backup and Replication, providing convenient access to all data protection and monitoring activities. That way, you get a bird's eye view over your virtual infrastructure and its performance. And let's have a final quick poll. Again, just click your answer in the pop-up. If you could choose one thing to improve in your current backup solution, what would it be? Lower cost, better performance, higher scalability, flexibility, more centralization, multi-platform support, simple user interface, more security features, better technical support, all of the above, or I don't have a backup solution. All right, so all of the above. Perfect. Thank you. And we'll be answering questions in a minute, but if you'd like to learn more about how NAKIVO's solution can help you avoid data loss and increase operational resilience in 2024, you can schedule your own live demo with one of our technical experts. You can schedule a demo by clicking the pop-up or following the link in your chat box. And if you want a more hands-on experience, you can try the solution in your environment for free for 15 days. This is a great way to see how the solution can help you achieve your data protection and recovery goals. The free trial has all the Enterprise Edition features, including site recovery and IT monitoring, so no feature limitation whatsoever. The whole deployment takes only a single command or a couple of clicks, and it's done in minutes. You can also try the solution in live workshop with our product engineers. We have one upcoming in February where you can learn how to deploy and configure the solution in a test environment and perform various backup and recovery activities. Registration for this workshop is already open. Keep in mind that attendance is limited to only 10 participants and 10 test environments. So register now or you might miss the chance later on. The registration link is in the chat box. I hope you're finding this webinar informative. Please let us know your feedback with this short survey. The link should be in your chat window by now. Your feedback helps us deliver a better experience for you in future events. You also get a chance to win a $25 Amazon e-gift card in a random survey draw after the webinar. And now we're ready to take your questions. We'll start with the ones already submitted, and you can type more questions in the dedicated question box in the control panel.
Hello everyone, this is Dario from the NAKIVO pre-sale team. So I'm here to answer your questions. I see already a couple of questions in our Q&A, one from Piotr. When will be available possibility to use hardware encryption of data tapes? At the current stage, it is not yet available, as you mentioned. I don't have an ETA about this feature, but it's being implemented. And then there is a second question from Niant. Will this solution require increasing my team size and having additional backup admin to look after the administration and configuration of this solution product, or the existing server admins and cloud admins can manage the administration? So NAKIVO is a very easy to use product. In our website, it is full of resources for anyone to learn and to become a certificate NAKIVO professional. So I'm pretty confident that you can implement, deploy, configure the solution out of the box with the existing personnel, trained personnel at your availability. The software itself is also aiming towards automation, so it can babysit itself. And I'm pretty sure it will be no match for your administration personnel to take care of it. So far, I don't see. Okay, I see in the chat some questions. One from Clinton McKinnon. Will there be Proxmox V support? Our team is currently implementing and testing active support for Proxmox and KVM. So I don't have a Q&A, QA, an ETA for this, but to provide you during this Q&A, but be aware that we are testing and implementing the solution already for Proxmox. There is an already active workaround, which is to backup Proxmox, KVM, and Citrix virtual machine as if they are physical using our agent, but this requires you to run a compatible guest OS. So the agent is compatible only with Windows and some distro of Linux, namely Ubuntu, Debian, Oracle Linux, Alma Linux, CentOS, Red Hat, and SUSE. There are other, I assume. I don't remember exactly all the compatible guest OS. That should be it, but you can check the list of compatible guest OS in our help center, or you can schedule a demo or a deployment session to discuss this topic, and we will answer this question specifically in relation to your guest OSs. I see other question in the Q&A. Are we compliant with 32110 backup standard? George Varghese, can you specify better this question, please? NAKIVO is compliant and allows you to implement a 3-2-1 strategy. But if you could please clarify your question, George, it would be great. Yeah, also, Hayhan Ahmedov is asking the same question about Proxmox, so I've answered it before. Rick is asking if can NAKIVO backup ESXi boot image files. No, NAKIVO can backup only and exclusively VMware ESXi virtual machine. I don't see any additional questions so far. Jay is asking if there is any statistic or references on the duplication compression for various backup. So when the duplication is implemented, NAKIVO can save you up to 93% of disk space in the best case scenario. The higher the amount of data that you store, the more efficient will become the deduplication. When talking about just compression, NAKIVO can save up to 70% of space implementing only compression, depending, in this case, on the data at the source, if it was already compressed or not, and the kind of data. Rick is asking if will NAKIVO support TrueNAS scale? Well, as far as I know, TrueNAS scale is based on Debian, and NAKIVO does support Debian. So you can, we have already some customer using TrueNAS scale. You can anyway use TrueNAS scale to store your backup through iSCSI, SMB, and NFS. We have some active customer that use TrueNAS scale to install NAKIVO, as it is based on Debian. Nora Chaban is asking, does NAKIVO will support to implement real-time replication for Microsoft Hyper-V? There is no plan for this at the moment. Real-time replication is in active beta testing for VMware exclusively. So George clarified his question. So the 32110 backup rule called for 5 conditions to be met. You should have at least 3 copies of your data, including the production copy, at least 2 different storage medium. Yes, NAKIVO can implement a true 32110 backup rule. You can implement any backup policy that you might think with NAKIVO. Okay? NAKIVO allows you to have air-gapped copies, offline copies, tape copies, completely air-gapped, USB mediums, wherever you want, whatever is the medium that comes in your mind, whatever is the policy that you want to implement, you can do it with NAKIVO. So definitely NAKIVO allows you to implement a 3-2-1-1-0 backup rule with backup verification to make sure that your backup are always recoverable, multiple backup copy jobs to store your backup across multiple mediums and multiple locations. Alex Lemelev is asking, could it do backup to 2 or more external drive? Yes, it is possible to implement the backup to an unlimited number of mediums, whether they are external or not. Yes, George, as I mentioned, NAKIVO with the 0 error means that we should be able to verify the data. NAKIVO allows to verify your backup recurringly or anytime a recovery job is created, thanks to the implementation of its own proprietary technology called Flash VM Boot. This functionality is available for physical and virtual machines. If you have a physical infrastructure to verify the backup have to be verified on a VMware infrastructure. So in order to implement a 3-2-1-1-0 policy with verification for physical machine, you should have anyway a virtual infrastructure where to verify the backup in the sandbox in VMware. Michael Kruger is asking if does NAKIVO support backup to tape? Yes, NAKIVO does support backup to standalone and robotic tape libraries, as well as virtual tape libraries. So I don't see any additional questions so far, neither in chat nor in the Q&A section. So I assume that we can conclude this Q&A session for today. Thank you everyone for being so active. Oh, there is another question in the last moment from George Varghese. Can we take backup of Microsoft 365 to cloud directly from VMware appliance? The backup for Microsoft 365 at the current level can be stored only and exclusively in a location on the file system where the NAKIVO transporter appliance is running. So this means that you can store the backup locally on a remote server where you have a transporter, or in an object or in a block level cloud storage instance. You cannot store the Microsoft 365 backups in a object level cloud instance, only on block level cloud instance. This means, for example, Amazon EBS volume, Azure disks, for example, or any block level storage cloud that you might think of. This block level storage cloud has to be attached to an instance provided by your provider. And now we can pass to the next session of the webinar. No, there is one more question from Yuri. If transporter on the Synology NAS, I can use it for Microsoft 365 backup. Yes, you can use the transporter on the Synology NAS to store directly on the Synology NAS the backup for Microsoft 365, provided that that NAS has at very least 4 gigs of RAM and an x86-64 CPU architecture. ARM-based NASes are not supported to store the backup using their onboard transporter. You can store the backup on your ARM-based NAS only and exclusively if you map a LUN and attach this LUN through iSCSI to a machine running an NAKIVO transporter on the x86-64 architecture. And I assume that there is no additional question. So I think we can move to the next session of the webinar. Thank you everyone for being so active and for this very interesting Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dario. And I believe it's time for the lucky draw. As we mentioned at the beginning, we are giving a $50 e-gift card to a lucky winner. Let's see who that's it. All right, and the winner is Vincent Tae Chun Hao. Thank you for participation. This wraps up our webinar. If you still have questions, feel free to book a demo and we will give you our full attention. Thank you for attending and we hope to see you at our next live events.